Hey, sports fans! New York Parrot has come out with a great new show for you guys, Sports with Rich. Broadcast time 10 p.m. Tuesday evening. Rich Mancuso with Robert Rizzo as a co-host. Sports with Rich is captivating, informative, and entertaining, and it will pertain to all American sports such as soccer, football, basketball, baseball, athletics, wrestling, you name it. Get rich information from Rich Mancuso on Sports with Rich. Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome back to Financial Focus University. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO. I own and operate a virtual financial family office called RIVIECCIO Financial Advisors. I am also an adjunct professor teaching personal finance at both Herbert A. Sweeman College and at Monroe College. And we're on spring break, ladies and gentlemen, so some of my gray hair will hopefully go away. Because now we're going to talk about what's on our show today. Well, we have a wonderful show for you today. It's a 3-segment show. Our first segment will be talking about Bidenomics. Another reason why maybe some of my black is coming back into my gray hair is that you might know the market was closed today. We celebrated Good Friday, but Bidenomics had a very, very bad week. And that will lead us into our second segment. Our second segment is, please don't have a heart attack when you open up your retirement or your 401k statement, because that actually will relate to the first segment. Most Americans got their 401k statement or their quarterly investment statement. Well, how did you do? I know many people had a heart attack. I had clients that called me as well as non-clients that called me. We'll talk about a way to correct that. And then our third and final segment is our traditional Ask a Question segment. We have a wonderful question, actually, from one of my clients. Her name is Juanita, and she simply is very worried. She's worried about what's happening with COVID. She's worried about what's happening with the health of our society. And her question is very simply, how do I protect my assets in this period of COVID? So we have a wonderful show for you, ladies and gentlemen. Sit back, get ready. Here's some bad news. We're going to talk about Bidenomics. So as we have our charts getting ready for you, I'm going to give you a day-by-day blow, as we always do, on how Bidenomics treated your money this week. So starting on Monday that just passed, you know, ladies and gentlemen, we actually have a 3-pronged fight that's going on in our economy. And it was all this week. One part of the week, we had people that were very worried about interest rates going up. And we had another segment of our financial economy that was worried about inflation going up. And then we had another part of our economy that were worried about how the economic stats were going to come in for the week. They all merged together. How did it go? On Monday, there was a very big push about interest rates going up. Many people were worried about that. What happened? The market went down 1.3%. On Tuesday, there were many people worried about inflation going up. Recent reports came out during the course of the week that inflation could reach a high of 10% this year. The market went down again on Tuesday, 0.3%. And then on Wednesday, well, the interest rate crowd got worried again. But they put out a message to the financial markets this time. This time they said, guys, we're worried about interest rates going up because that's a sign of a healthy economy. Well, that sort of changed the market around. They said, oh, a healthy economy, that's good for stocks. It was good for the market on Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. It went up 1.3%. On Thursday, what happened? Well, remember, as I always say, on Thursday and Friday, those are the days that the U.S. economic numbers come in. So jobless claims. Jobless claims is a very important number to the United States economy. How did that do? Well, jobless claims went down. They went up. Forgive me. They actually went up. So the market was very worried about that. Another important indicator that came out on Thursday was retail sales. How did retail sales do for the month? Well, they were pretty much flat. Well, how did the market interpret less people getting work and retail sales being flat? Well, the market didn't like that too much on Thursday. As you can see by the chart, it went down 1.3%. Well, on Friday, as I indicated a minute ago, the market was closed, right? Thank God I shared a little gray hair off. So how did we do for the week? How did we do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? Well, for the week, ladies and gentlemen, the stock market went down 1.6%. For 2022, which is from January 1 to today, a total of 15 weeks. How did the market do? Negative 8.3%. Let me put that in a little bit more layman's terms for our next segment. That could have been your investment account statement that you opened up, and that's what you saw. Let's look at our Bob Press Index. As our viewers know, I always address this index as a very important index. This was during the time, 8 weeks ago, that Mr. Press, who was not a client at that time, says to me, Anthony, what should I do? And, you know, I never like to give non-fiduciary advice, so I didn't give him any fiduciary advice, but I did share with him some of my thoughts about the market in the future, as I share with the audience. And his position was, I'm all in, because I'm in it for the long term. Well, for the last 8 weeks, Mr. Press has lost 2.3%. But as you can see by the 2002 chart and the Bob Press Index, we really, most of that 8.3% was lost before the Bob Press Index took effect. So it was really lost during the early part of the year. We've had some gains along the way, but we're still in the negative situation. So let me just show you, ladies and gentlemen, our next chart and talk about interest rates for a moment, because this is a chart I showed you last week. I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that this chart indicates what we call the inverted yield curve, where people believe we're going to have a period of both inflation and stagnation. So if you look at the chart, and if you look down at the bottom, the first two lines you see are what we call the 1 year and the 2 year treasury bills. If you look on the top of the chart, you'll see the top two are the 30-year treasury bond and the 10-year treasury bond. And traditionally, all those lines are supposed to go up. In a healthy economy, all those lines are supposed to be projected up. Well, if you look all the way towards April 1st on the right-hand side, and if you look at the 2 year treasury, which is the lavender one, starting to go straight up, and if you notice, it's going all the way up to the 30-year treasury bond. And it's actually touching the purple line, which is the 30-year treasury bond, which is really not supposed to be happening, right? It actually bypassed all the other treasury bonds, the 5 year, the 10 year, right? It went right to the 30. That's what we call a dangerous inverted yield curve. So, ladies and gentlemen, what Bidenomics has taught us this week is what we're going to talk about in the next segment. Don't have a heart attack when you open up your 401k statement. We're going to also talk later on about estate planning when we talk about Ask the Question. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment.
Hey, sports fans! World Inkers Monthly magazine is a fine source for your literary interests. It's an all-source magazine with poetry, prose, and essays and articles, as well as interviews. It's all full-color art and photography, from a variety of voices and artists, you will find this magazine entertaining. This is an all-purpose readership, and we are looking for new voices. This sleek, full-color edition of World Inker's monthly magazine will be something pleasant for your eyes as well as for your mind. And we're looking for authors for one book promotion in the magazine. If you're a business, we want to promote your business. You may submit your book reviews, your academic or non-academic articles on the humanities and the arts, as well as your literary writing and creative output to publication.worldinkers@gmail.com. World Inkers Monthly Magazine does not spare any ink. Keep inking for World Inkers Monthly Magazine.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Segment 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please grab a pen and a piece of paper, and we're going to talk for a moment about our next segment, our how-to segment. Let me tell our producer to go to the next set of charts. We're going to talk about how not to have a heart attack when you open up your 401k statement, right? Which pretty much leads us from the first segment right into our second segment. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been keeping track of the markets, but I'm sure you opened up your 401k statement or your investment statement, and then you recognize, yes, we got a lot of things going on that seems to be affecting our economy. Let's talk about some of the things that are going on, right? We're now in a period of inflation. We're now in a very direct period of being involved in a war. We're also in a period where we have record U.S. imports, where we're buying more than we're selling. We haven't been, ladies and gentlemen, in that type of environment since the 1970s. And when we were in that environment in the 1970s, we had something that you also might be hearing in the last couple of days on financial news or financial television. Thank you. And basically, I apologize. Let me repeat that. So, isn't that a wonderful chart, ladies and gentlemen? It took me all night to make that chart. Okay, so again, ladies and gentlemen, we've had inflation, we've had war, we're in the middle of record imports, and again, we have not been in this situation since the 1970s. When we were in that situation, it was called stagflation. Brand new word, right? A lot of people haven't heard it, just like inverted yield curve, right? What does stagflation mean? It means it's a period when we're in high inflation, right, which is supposed to mean a healthy economy in one sense, while we're going into a recession, right? So that doesn't sound actually correct. That's not economically correct. So let me again put it in layman's terms. It was chaos. The 1970s were economic chaos. Well, these three variables are now starting to hit us again. Remember segment 1, first quarter, right? I just covered 15 weeks. We're at a negative 8.3%. Do I believe we're going to get better? Well, generally speaking, no. I believe there are more negatives right now in the market than positives. There are some segments of the market that are doing well. If anybody knows of anyone especially, please feel free to give me a call because I'm still looking. So what we need to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is to protect our money, right? Because we're now in a period that anybody under 50 years old, let's be very frank about it. Yes, I'm 62, but let's be very frank about it. Anybody under 50 has not really lived in an economic tsunami, what I'm going to call tsunami, a period of high inflation, a period of record U.S. imports, and a period of war, and I can go into budget deficits and all that good stuff, right? All we want to do right now is protect our futuristic money. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me teach you a basic foundational asset allocation tip. And let me stress, it is not strategy. You should not use this as strategy. When we talk about strategy, you want to call your financial advisor, talk about long-term asset allocation strategy. But if you want to have a short foundation on how to protect your money before you have that meeting, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to what we call the rule of 100. The rule of 100 works very simply. We take the number 100, meaning that we believe that you and your money, right, or basically you want to live to the age of 100. If you live past the age of 100, let me know what you have for dinner. But we use that age, right, the age of 100, and subtract that number from what your age is now. And that difference is the amount that you should have in the stock market. So using that formula, and we're going to go over that formula in a moment, you'll see that as the age gets higher, the risk gets lower. So if I was 40 years old, which I wish I was, and if I was to subtract that from the age of 100, well, then that means 60% of my money should be working for me. It should be working for me in growth-related items, and I should be willing to take more of a risk with that money. Why? Because I'm 40 years old. That's why, right? Because if I want to live to the age of 100, I want some money to bank on. So now I'm 50. Do I use the same basic asset allocation strategy? Well, by the rule of 100, right? Take 100, subtract it by 50. Well, now I should lower that asset allocation from 60% stocks to 50% stocks. Where should the difference go, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, in what we call safe, conservative accounts. Because right now we're just talking stocks, right? We're talking high risk, high reward, right? So now, 10 years later, now I get to 60 years old. Should I have the same portfolio? Well, the rule of 100 says take the age of 100, subtract it by 60. Well, now I should lower that portfolio to 40%. So as you can see by those three examples, the theory being that as you're younger, you should take more advantage of the market, because long term, the market historically, every 10 years out of 100 years, averages 10% a year. Maybe not this year, but on average, 10% a year during a vehicle cycle of 10 years. So as you can see by the chart, as we get younger, we want to do that because we all want to hope to live to the age of 100. But as we get older, we should be safeguarding that money while still using it for growth, right? I hope this helped, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to go over a specific strategy, feel free to give me a call, 347-575-5045. Protect your retirement account. We'll be back in a moment.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely convince you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Segment 3. Our segment 3 is a traditional Ask the Question segment. But ladies and gentlemen, let me quickly ask you a question before we go into that segment. Have you done your taxes yet? Please do. Deadline day is April 18th. Let's get to Ask a Question. Let's talk about estate planning. You know, ladies and gentlemen, when during income tax season, you speak to clients about a lot of different things. Juanita is actually one of our clients, as opposed to someone that just wrote in. And we were on the phone. We were talking about her taxes, of course. And then she said to me, she was very concerned about COVID. She's very concerned that many people in her immediate family and her friends have been hit in a variety of different ways, including death. And she was very concerned about her assets. She has significant assets in many different ways, and wanted to know what she should do in regard to protecting her assets during this health-related period of time. And of course, what I said to her was, what you're really asking me is about estate planning. So you can see up there on the chart, ladies and gentlemen, the official definition of estate planning. Estate planning has many definitions. Let me give you mine in layman's terms. It's when one is anticipating or arranging someone's final intent, right? In layman's terms, that's what it is. You're going to hear me use the word intent because, as you can see underneath, a very simple rule of estate planning is the word intent. You want your intent, your final intent, to be written down. And it's written down on an official document. The document we'll talk about in a moment. But I want to emphasize the word intent, because if it's not written down, then we don't know what your final intent is. And you'll find out in a moment who will make that decision for you. So let's go to the next chart for a moment. And when we talk about documents to use, right? Well, documents become very simple. Documents become very complicated. But in layman's terms, you want to be sure that your intent, right? Intent for any of your personal assets, intent for any banking assets, investment assets, your retirement assets, your home assets, even any accessories and jewelry that you may or may not have, any other properties you may or may not have. You want to be sure that your intent is to give them to your designated beneficiaries, and you're going to bequeath them, right? You're going to give them to them in the form of either a document called a will, or a document called the power of attorney, or a document called a healthcare proxy, or a document called a trust. If my producer can go to the next slide. Because those documents have very specific wording as well as intent as to what you want your assets to do. Because if you do not use any one or any combination of those documents, and we'll go over them again real quickly, on the top, no, you can go back to the next chart. Thank you. So if we look on the top, you'll see wills, and then you'll see power of attorney, and then you'll see healthcare proxy, and then you'll see trust. So when you want your intent specific to a property that you own, and again, we're talking your assets. So your assets could be any number of different things. Some of the ones I've just mentioned, life insurance, and again, all the things that I've mentioned. If your intent to bequeath them is not in any one of those documents, then you'll see the purple circle is called probate. And this is where I say to people, well, if it's not one of those documents, then your assets get frozen. And where do they go? They go to that wonderful circle called probate. And it's called probate court, ladies and gentlemen. And probate court is a very scary place. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, as I said to some of my clients, I think I've handled, please don't quote me on this, maybe 15 cases, I think it's safe to say, in probate court over the course of 30 years. And if I wrote a chapter for every case that I had, I would, it would be the best horror story movie in the world. And the name of that movie would be Don't Worry, Anthony, My Family Got It Covered. Because that's where you meet what I call the Antilles of the world. The Antilles of the world that, guess what? Because they're a living relative, they have a right to make a claim. That's their right. And they have a right to say, oh, you were going to leave the furniture to me because that's what you said one day. Or you promised me that I was going to get half of the assets in the bank account. And who is she making that claim to? She's making that claim to a judge. And guess what? Your family that maybe was supposed to get those assets, but you never got around to doing the document. Well, guess what? Now they got to go to the same judge, right? And the judge now has to figure all of this out. But the judge gets paid first. All the lawyers that are there, they get paid first. The whole process that it goes through gets paid first. Who pays them? Your assets. That's why they're there in the front. Well, that's why they're there holding them. They're doing all the paperwork on them. What does the probate court get? That varies from state to state to state to state. I think it's safe to say on average about 25%. This is even before Antilles makes the claim. And I've been in court cases where I see 2 or 3 Antilles all in one court case. So, Juanita, if you're watching, I can't speak about the health concern, but as I always say, people should have life insurance as well as health insurance, and estate planning is never too early. We all want to live to the age of 100. I'm living to the age of 300. I'm sure some people can tell. But the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, any assets that you own are significant. And if they're significant to give them to family or charity, please write it down. Once your intent is clear, then I'm sure you'll leave us on this earth a very happy place. And Juanita, that includes you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching tonight. We have some good shows coming up in our next couple of Fridays. So please be financially focused. Have a good night.
Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved.